When brothers go wrong. 10. Sister Strangler. In 2019, Georgia teenager Kevon Watkins was sentenced to life in prison without ever having the possibility of parole. He earned the sentence at the ripe young age of 18 years old. So what did Kevon do to get such a brutal sentence? He was found guilty of strangling his older sister to death in their home on February 2, 2018. Her name was Alexis Brianna Watkins. She was 2 years older than Kevon. Why did he strangle her? The two got into a heated argument over the Wi-Fi password. According to information brought to light after Kevon's arrest, he had been in an argument with his mother over the internet service they had in their home. Apparently, the internet just wasn't good enough for Kevon. It wasn't up to his standards. Because the internet was so slow, Kevon changed the Wi-Fi password so that he could play his video games without having any of his family members, specifically his sister, slowing the connection down. Alexis, the sister, was enraged with Kevon as he was arguing with their mother because she was worried that things were about to get physical. Sadly for her, they did get physical. Kevon got his sister in a chokehold and squeezed her neck for an estimated 15 minutes. By the time the police arrived, the girl had already suffocated to death. Deputies tried to perform CPR, but there was just no saving her. 9. The ANTI-VAXXER. A man in Maryland has allegedly killed his pharmacist brother in the name of vaccine conspiracies. The man's brother was a pharmacist, and he confronted him about his radical ideas that the government is poisoning people with COVID vaccines. This is according to documents taken straight from the court proceedings. Jeffrey Burnham then killed his sister-in-law, a random woman he didn't know, and his brother, all because he claimed that they were killing people by injecting them with the vaccines. To stop his brother from hurting more people, Jeffrey thought it was his duty to murder him and his wife. Jeffrey went to Ellicott City, where authorities believe he killed an elderly woman named Rebecca Reynolds and stole her car. He then drove the dead woman's car to his brother's house and walked in through the front door. He opened fire on his brother and his sister-in-law, then stole his brother's Corvette. The authorities found both victims dead inside the house and Jeffrey long gone. The authorities eventually tracked Jeffrey Burnham to West Virginia, where he was trying to get away in his brother's Corvette. He was arrested and extradited back to Maryland and charged with so many counts of first-degree murder that he's never getting out of jail again. And all because he was a nutjob who didn't trust the government and took his insane theories out on his brother. 8. Dead and buried. When police went to serve a wellness check at a home in Lyons near Chicago, they had never imagined that they would stumble upon a bizarre murder case involving a pair of brothers, a dead sister, and a dead mother. When they knocked on the door, the man living inside freely admitted that he had buried his mom and his sister in the backyard several years prior. The police took this pretty seriously and brought in a team to dig up the backyard. They were also suspicious because of the reason behind the wellness check. A neighbor had initially called them after seeing somebody crawling out of a window as if trying to escape. By that night, Lyons police were searching for bodies. They had to bring in archaeologists and evidence technicians to find the corpses in the backyard. As for the brothers inside the house, they were determined to be living in squalor. The house hadn't had water in over a year. It was a hoarder situation in which the house was filled with trash, and one of the brothers was extremely sick. Police only entered the home once they wore full hazmat suits. They had to remove 2 dogs and then send them to the animal hospital to be checked out. According to the brothers, it had been their sister who pushed their mother down the stairs and killed her. And then later on, they say the sister just kind of died on her own. But considering the brothers buried both bodies in the backyard instead of calling the cops, chances are they could be the real murderers. 7. Sleepy Stabber. Benjamin Elliott was 17 years old when he stabbed his twin sister to death in Harris County. Benjamin has already been charged with a murder after deputies found him performing CPR on his sister, who had been stabbed several times in the neck. According to what Benjamin told the police, he woke up sometime around 2:30 in the morning. When he awoke, he was standing in his sister's bedroom and there was a knife jammed inside her throat. When he realized he wasn't dreaming, he pulled the knife out, sat down on the bed, and called 911. His defense is that he had been sleepwalking during the murder. He has no recollection of committing the murder. He had no motive to kill his sister, and he called 911 after he realized what he'd done. This is a bizarre case, and we don't know how it will turn out. Benjamin had no history of mental problems or sleeping disorders. Everyone agrees that the siblings always got along just fine, and there's really no logical reason why he would stroll into his sister's room as she slept and stab her to death. Do you think Benjamin knowingly murdered his sister, or was this a freak case of sleepwalking gone wrong? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. 6. A troubled teen. McCann Utu Jr. is almost definitely responsible for killing his mother, Stacy Fawcett, and his younger brother, Josiah Utu, just 17. At the time of the murders, McCann was a perfectly ordinary 19-year-old Texan. His mother was a well-known food blogger. The police discovered the body of Stacy, Josiah, and McCann in their Plano home. McCann had actually called the police himself after going on a rampage with a kitchen knife, slashing his mother and brother. Incidentally, he messed up his murders and inflicted some stab wounds on himself as well. He killed his family and then incidentally did himself in. Even after the police had paramedics take the murderer to the Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital, there was nothing doctors could do for him. McCann had stabbed himself so efficiently during his wild attack that he too died. But what was the motive here? According to family members, McCann had not been the same ever since a series of concussions that he suffered while playing sports. The first happened in 2013 while he was playing basketball in high school. A few months later, he had another concussion after getting into a fight with a fellow student. After that, his behavior changed completely. He began to isolate himself, to act erratically, and to just generally be a different person. The head injuries left him troubled, and eventually his rattled brain caused him to go postal and stab his family to death. 5. Embarrassed and crazy. Eduardo Arevalo definitely killed his sister. There's just no way that he didn't. Eduardo confessed. He was arrested and charged with capital murder, and he has since been locked up behind bars. This case was opened and closed in the blink of an eye, with Eduardo being 100% guilty. Now let's look at what happened. Eduardo confessed to the police that he murdered his pregnant sister because she embarrassed him. At the time of the killing, his sister Viridiana was 8 months pregnant. According to Sergeant Aaron Woodard with the Colony Police Department in Texas, Eduardo admitted that the pregnant girl was an embarrassment to her family and that they would be better off if she were dead. So he took matters into his own hands. He killed his sister with his bare hands, then dumped her bloody corpse into an alley less than a mile from the family house. It didn't take long for police to crack the case wide open. Once they interviewed Eduardo, he spilled the beans pretty much immediately. His family members still refuse to believe that he could have done such a thing. They say he's a kind and positive boy, but in reality, he was totally crazy and killed his sister. 4. Dad's gun. A 13-year-old boy in South Carolina has gotten into a bit of trouble for shooting his brother to death. His brother was only 10 years old when he got gunned down over a silly argument about who got to sit in bed and watch TV. Where did the 13-year-old boy get a gun to shoot his brother? The answer is from his father, Gary Roberts. Gary has since been charged with unlawful neglect for leaving a loaded rifle against the wall of an open bedroom. According to Kershaw County Sheriff's Captain David Thomley, the rifle was left in full view of the children while Gary was out running errands. It wasn't in a closet, there was no lock on it, it was just sitting there loaded and ready to fire. This may come as a shock to you, but the shooting went down in a mobile home. The mobile home was in a small neighborhood with other mobile homes, what you might call a trailer park. The older brother, whose name was never released because of his age, used the .22 caliber rifle to shoot his younger brother directly in the face. At the time, their younger sister was also in the home, but she wasn't harmed. And even though the boy is 13, investigators are looking to prosecute him as an adult, meaning he'll probably be in jail well into his 20s. 3. $300. In Prosser, Washington, a man has been arrested for killing a father of 4. The man he killed also happened to be his older brother. According to the authorities, the murder happened during an argument over $300 of debt. The murderer in this case is Alejandro Martinez, who stabbed Oscar Martinez multiple times in the chest and upper back before dropping him off at the nearest hospital. By the time he got his brother to the hospital, he was already dead. When the detective asked what happened, Alejandro claimed that unidentified assailants attacked his brother and then ran away. But when the police questioned him a second time, he changed his story. He couldn't keep the facts straight, and that was when he eventually broke down and said that he was the killer. The saddest part is that the brothers had been fighting over such a small amount of money. Oscar was asking Alejandro to pay the $300 back, but Alejandro refused. Even after the two men went home that day, they kept on arguing through text messages. At one point, Alejandro even texted Oscar and said that if he came anywhere near his home, he would kill him. And sadly, that's exactly what he did when Oscar showed up. Even if Alejandro feels bad about it now, he still picked up the knife and plunged it into his brother's chest. Over 300 measly bucks. 2. Games gone wrong. In Florida, a 2-year-old girl was left in exceptionally critical condition after she was shot by her brother. You might be thinking that her brother is a grown man, but that's not the case. Her brother is only 3 years old. He didn't even shoot her on purpose. He simply found a handgun that had sunk into some couch cushions at their house. The child pulled the handgun from the cushions, pointed it at his sister, and pulled the trigger. This terrifying incident took place in West Lakeland, where a couple of men had met up to watch an NBA game. The only proper thing that happened here is that the men stopped watching basketball long enough to take the dying child to the hospital, although it took a bit of time to get her there. As they were driving the interstate, they T-boned another vehicle and sustained serious injuries. It was a good Samaritan who stopped and took the dying child from the men and rushed her to the hospital themselves. The girl had one surgery right away with a second soon to follow. Amazingly, she might still live. The bullet passed through her chest, down through her pancreas, piercing the large and small intestines before bursting out of her back. In the end, hopefully the girl survives. The men who were present in the house are now facing serious charges involving illegal firearms. Plus, deputies at the scene of the car accident found illegal drugs. Chances are, even if the girl survives, the men in her life will all be in prison. 1. Accidentally run over. In Brunswick County, Virginia, a man accidentally killed his brother. It happened when the guy was trying to give his brother a ride one morning. 61-year-old Carlton Stith was driving down the road at approximately 5:51 a.m. On the shoulder, walking in the dusk, Carlton saw his brother. Naturally, he tried to flag his brother down and give him a ride. Carlton pulled his 2019 Chevy pickup truck onto the shoulder just beyond where he saw his brother. Then he slammed the truck into reverse, thinking he could back up a few feet to where his brother was walking. Sadly, Carlton backed up too quickly and went too far, running over his brother Jerry and killing him. It was definitely an accident. Carlton quickly called the police and told them what happened. Paramedics arrived, but Jerry Van Stith was pronounced dead at the scene. Carlton wasn't actually charged with murder, seeing as it was an accident, but he did get charged with the bizarre crime of improper backing. You see, there are laws in Virginia that require a person backing up a vehicle to make sure they can do so safely. In this case, Carlton did not back up safely. Not safely at all. Which of these murderous brothers do you think was the absolute worst? Let us know in the comments, and thanks for watching today's video. For more, remember to hit subscribe and come back soon.